friends, hey book dragons, I'm here today to do part 1 of my March reading wrap up. I will be honest, I have been reading some really chunky books this month, so my reading stats are a lot less than I anticipated, but I have read about 6 books this month. I think I'm like 1 off of my thing, so it says I read 5. I think I missed 1, but I'll have to go back. But that is what I have read so far. So stats so far is I read 6 things. Total pages read, I think I didn't add Harry Potter, I think that's why. Total pages read is 1,902. Average page today was 64.26, which has been about accurate. I haven't been reading that much after work. Average page count of my book is 398. My most read genre is YA fantasy, which I think is a real big improvement. Books with rep is 2, and authors I read before is 3. I have 3 5 stars, 1 4-star, and I think that's it. So I think I'm missing 1 book somewhere in there. But yeah, so let's get into it. A couple of these books I'm on blog tour for, so that kind of became the priority because I want to not be so far behind like I have been in past years. So I picked up Luca of the Night Forest by Taylor K. Mejia. I have read other books by this author and have enjoyed them. This is it's not her first YA book, but I think it's her first YA fantasy book, I believe. And this was a fun time. I gave it 4 stars. I'm on a blog tour for this, so the review will come out in a couple of weeks. Well, actually, will come out the day before this video goes up. Will come out on Tuesday. This video will come out on a Wednesday. But I enjoyed it. I really did like her writing style, but basically it follows this main character who has to protect her sister, but she kind of gets caught up between a war with the gods, which I just finished reading Divine Rivals, which was not really a war between the gods. This book does have war between the god elements, and I love the forest element. In New York, we're starting to get into springtime, and I love a good spring read. There is definitely a very, very strong, sister dynamic in here. There's also some LGBTQ plus themes. It did feel like a standalone. I wouldn't surprise me if maybe we get another book at another time set in this world, but it did feel like it. There was definitely god elements. If you are a fan of Shadow and Bone, there is a character that's sort of very reminiscent of the Darkling in this, but I just enjoyed it. I like the characters. It also does deal with a lot of harder topics. There is a drug in here that kind of makes people forget things, which I think you could relate to a lot of other things. So it does deal with harder topics that's kind of rooted in the story. I know Taylor K. Mejia goes by they, them pronouns, so you can definitely see that in the characters. It was fun. It was a quick read, definitely darker topics, but enjoyable. A little bit of a harder read, but one that I still really liked, and I gave it 4 stars, and it was fun. And then the next books I'm going to talk about super quick. Well, one is really, really quick. But I did wind up reading the second Harry Potter book. I'm not going to talk about it that much because I really don't want to support this author on my channel, but I am doing a group read with MuggleCast with MuggleCast. We're reading a chapter a week, so it's just going to take me a while, but I really do like supporting those people on that podcast. They're great. They're awesome. I struggle a lot with J.K. Rowling, but I just like rereading this series because they have really interesting takes, and it's just a fun time. So I have Google Meets with them that I meet up with them once a month, and they're just a fun time. So try to support them. So we're reading through book 3 now, which will probably take me a little bit longer because we're doing 1 chapter a week. But yeah, I'm not going to talk about too much on this channel, but I will mention when I finish them just because it is a reread that I am doing. And then my nonfiction book that I picked up was Spare by Prince Harry. This did take me a while because in February I was doing a ton of grading and I really wanted to focus on what he was saying, but here is a photo. I will attach it here. You probably have seen this photo. It's been everywhere. I was really intrigued to start this book. I've heard some very, very conflicting reports, but I just was fascinated. I think that Prince Harry is a very interesting person, and I think his life is very, very interesting. And I will admit, I did watch Meghan and Harry, and I really was intrigued by it. I thought it was a very interesting look at his side of the story, and I just was intrigued. I feel like his story is just very, very compelling, very, very interesting. I just found it interesting to see the world that he grew up in, and how his world turned out. It was the first time we heard him talk about his mom and her death and how that kind of impacted her, and it really was broached more in the book than it ever was in the documentary. And honestly, Megan was a really small part of the book. I thought it really dealt with him and his past trauma and stuff like that. But I wouldn't say it was an enjoyable experience, but I think it was very informative and very, very educational. I know there were two sides to every story, but I don't know. I know it's ghostwritten, but he had a lot of say in it. And I just enjoyed reading his story, and it was interesting. He's always been my favorite royal ever since I was little. So seeing the story told from his eyes and not through like puff pieces or through royal correspondence was really, really interesting. So I don't really rate nonfiction, but it was definitely a unique read, which a perspective that I never really thought of. And yeah, I enjoyed hearing his story told from his point of view. And that is all I will say on that. But that was my second nonfiction of the year, which I'm very, very proud of. Nonfiction was a hard in 2022, so I'm trying to be better in 2023. And then the next book that I picked up was one that I have been waiting for about 2.5 years. It does not come out in May, but I have a reading vlog coming out that's going to kind of do all my thoughts in May, so I'm not going to go too in depth, but I did want to say that I did wind up reading Isles of the Gods by Amy Kaufman. Here's a photo. I have been following this author for so long, and I've been following pub dates where she's chronicling the journey up to publication since about 2 years ago. And I just love this book. I devoured it. I gave it 5 stars. I think it's going to be if I gave 6 stars, definitely a 6-star book, definitely an all-time book of all time. I love Amy Kaufman. I have loved everything she has written. I have loved her joint projects. I have also enjoyed her middle grade debut. This book threw everything out of the water. And normally when you have 6 point of view characters in a story, I always like one less. I really enjoyed them all. I thought their perspectives were really, really interesting and really, really compelling. But if you've been living under a rock and don't know what this book is about, I'm going to educate you. But it basically follows these 6 characters, and you follow Sally, who's a sailor girl. And in this world, there is elemental magic. And if you're born with sailor marks on your arms, you have magic. And Sally is a sailor, and she is starting to get frustrated that she's not going to see her dad. And she's kind of on a ship with this woman, and an unexpected person shows up. Little does she know that this unexpected person is a prince named Leander, who has to do a very important mission or a sacrifice that will kind of make sure a god doesn't rise. And there is 2 countries on the brink of war, and their gods are kind of arguing, and if Leander doesn't make the sacrifice, things are going to get bad. Those are the 2 point of view characters. And then you have my sweet soul animal Keegan, who is a scholar who accidentally gets caught up in this quest and is very, very displeased to see that. And then you have Laskia, who is our villain-ish character who is trying to wake this god, in a sense. And then you have Jude, who is on Laskia's side, sort of. And he is a bare-knuckle boxer, I'll say that. And it is such a fast-paced read. The book is over 400 pages, or maybe just exactly 400. I did not want to put this book down. I wanted to read it. I remember I was working and I was like, I just want to read Isle of the Gods. But it was great. Amy has found a way to really pack an emotional punch in her stories, but also really raise the stakes high. Sometimes the books that I read, the stakes don't feel high in the first book in a YA series, but Amy Kaufman's books stakes always feel super high, and I have missed that in books that I've been reading. So I gave this book 5 stars. I will have a reading vlog coming out in May closer to release date. I will probably reread it when the audiobooks come out, because Amy Kaufman has great audiobooks, whether it's on her own or with other people. But yeah, I just love this. I gave it 5 stars. Definitely going to be an all-time favorite book of all time. Definitely going to blow other books out of the water. But yeah, definitely check out Isles of the Gods when it comes out in May. It is definitely going to be a new favorite. And then after that, I took a little bit of a break. I have some earmarks that I have to get that are fantasy or not fantasy. So I wanted picking up Queen Bee by Amelia Howard. This is the second book in the Joy Revolution imprint that I have picked up. And I'm also on a blog tour for this. I got this at Y'all Fest when I went. But I enjoyed this. It was a fun time. I really do like Bridgerton. I like the take that Shonda Rhimes is doing, kind of expanding the world, adding a lot more diversity to her story. And I felt like that this book was done in a really, really effective manner. It's also interesting because it's kind of like a Count of Monte Cristo retelling where you have one character that is kind of out for revenge, and you follow her in the present when she's kind of enacting her revenge, and you follow her in the past when her revenge plan realizes what is happening. And I really liked it. I don't think it's going to be a new favorite, but I did like the diversity. I like the revenge elements. I like the characters. I would love if we got like stories from like other characters set in this world, but this character was super fun and I gave it 4 stars. So yeah, blog tour books this month were really, really good. And then I wound up randomly picking up Aurora Rising by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff, which is the first book in her Aurora cycle, just because I wanted something else to read that I knew I could like fly through when I was grading, and I needed like something that like I had already read, and I liked it. I gave it 5 stars. Again, I really want to reread the other books in this series, but this had to be like a precursor for me. But yeah, that is my really, really quick wrap up. I did not read as much, but I'm trying to not be as hard on myself when I don't read like a ton of books. So yeah, that is where we are. Let me know in the comments, what is your highlight book? Definitely my highlight book was definitely Isles of the Gods by Amy Kaufman. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you're currently reading. I would love to know, and I'll talk to you guys soon for my next video. Bye, book dragons.